Oh, these money, there are always some problems with them. Sometimes there is not enough of them, sometimes it seems like there is some, but it quickly runs out, and sometimes we just don't know what to do with them when we have them and there is a lot of them. But I probably won't be wrong if I assume that more often than not people are faced with a shortage of money rather than with an excess of it, and that is why in my articles I constantly discuss the issue related to the lack of money, trying in every way to explain to my readers how this problem can be solved. Why is there always not enough money? Do you know the answer to this question? And I know not just there in theory, but in life, because in my life I often lacked money, but nevertheless, I found it when it was needed, and I managed it the way it should be managed in order to always have money. And now, dear readers, I will teach you this. Let's pay attention to how it happens to us or someone else when there is not enough money. It would seem that we all work, earn money, and our salary, although not large, is there, and it should be enough for us to live, but for some reason it is not enough. Yes, this life of ours, on just one salary, can be very modest, but this is the norm for our world, in which most people do not live very richly. Not everyone can live richly, but not all of us. We need to take care of ourselves, we need to look after our money, first of all. So what happens to us with it? It seems like you just recently received your salary, but the money is gone, as if it had never been there. It seems to have evaporated. So the question arises, where, and most importantly, how did the money go from you? Why were you unable to save anything, leave nothing? Why did you spend everything and now are forced to suck your paw? Please note, friends, such problems with money are experienced not only by those people whose wages are below the average level, but also by quite wealthy people. Therefore, referring to a small salary, small income, in most cases is incorrect, because the problem of a lack of money is not in this, not in the amount of money coming to you, although of course, when they come to you in very small quantities, then this is also the problem. And what is it, this problem? Maybe in expenses? Generally speaking, partly yes. And this is the most significant part of this problem, and I have already written in my articles that you need to monitor not only the inflow of money into your budget, but also its outflow. The thing is that our expenses always tend to overtake our income, so it is expenses that must be monitored very strictly. They are what create problems with money for us. But, at a fundamental level, the problem of a lack of money is different, not in income and expenses. And what is it? And in order to understand, friends, what this problem is, I recommend that you pay attention to the questions that arise in your head when you are faced with a lack of money. Where, how, why, for what, when did your money go away from you? Do such questions bother you? And what do they tell you? What do they indicate? Don't they indicate to you that you do not control the process of receipt and especially the process of spending money? Aren't your spending irrational in such a case, if you do not even know how it happened that you have no money? It turns out that your money, as it were, lives its own life, bypassing your attention to itself, while you do not care at all about taking this situation with your money, not someone else's, but specifically with your money under your control. Well, think for yourself, what kind of question is this? Where did the money go? Who are you asking it to? God, or other people? Only you know the answer to this question, unless of course you manage your money yourself and don't trust it to, say, your neighbor. But you have to be able to look after yourself, you have to be able to control yourself, you must agree. Many people spend money unconsciously, that's the problem. That's why they don't remember a damn thing where, how, why they spent their money, they just parted with it somewhere and they no longer have it, and now they are scratching their heads, trying to understand what happened to their money. And what's interesting is that I know people with financial education who act just as thoughtlessly as some illiterate spendthrift who is used to borrowing until payday, because he absolutely does not know how to manage his money. So it's not about knowledge about money, or rather, not only down, it's mainly about psychology, about the unconscious behavior of a person. You yourself give your money to everyone, for the goods and services that you supposedly need, and because of this you run out of it. Remember how in the movie Mimino, he says, to a restaurant, here and there, he had a snack, and then the money runs out. That's how it actually runs out. Well, what are we needed for, or rather, what is our head given to us for, so that money runs out? But since it is so, and I assure you, it is so, I have been working with people for many years, solving similar problems, then you should think about it, each of you should think about it, how to start controlling yourself in your relationship with money. Of course, it runs out, that's what money is for, to run out, but we, for our part, must somehow make sure that it does not run out so quickly and not so often, so as not to sit on our ass in a puddle. There are vital expenses in our life that we are forced to make no matter what. We need to pay for our housing, pay for utilities, we have to pay taxes, pay for motor transport and so on. These are all things that we cannot do without and for which we are forced to pay. We must find money for all these things, unless of course we want to end up on the street, or be left without water and electricity, do not want to walk, or even die of hunger, because we also need to spend money on food, we do not eat air. Well, if you don't allow yourself anything special, for example, don't live in a palace that costs a lot of money, or don't drive around to bakeries in a gluttonous car, and don't eat only in restaurants, in general, live adequately for your income, then you won't have any serious problems with paying for the things you need to live. But as for all the other expenses, including your big and small whims, gifts to friends, shopping, entertainment, and so on and so forth, all this actually sucks the most money out of you. And since you make many of your expenses while emotionally overexcited, you don't really count them and don't even feel how uncontrollably your money is leaving you. You spend money on emotions, bypassing consciousness, which pleases advertisers and marketers who foist everything on you, but because of which you then lose money that you can earn in an amount sufficient for a normal life. That is, your salary may be good, but there may not be enough money. This happens to many people. Emotions control your money, friends, and not you yourself, not your consciousness, not your common sense. And your emotions are controlled by the above-mentioned specialists in people and in fleecing people, marketers, advertisers, traders, and other similar specialists. And they don't give a damn about your financial stability, the main thing for them is to pump more money out of you. What to do in such a case? You need to pull yourself together, if not in your head, then at least on paper, write down all your expenses, and at the same time your income. There are often problems with them too, especially when a person is toiling away at some shitty job, where he is not just ripe, but completely overripe. But still, the main role will be played by your expenses, from the point of view of their analysis. Paper, my friends, or a text editor on your computer, can help you cope with the problem of lack of money. Not screaming in the kitchen, not breaking dishes, and not increasing your income by even more work that you can start doing, but a thorough analysis of what is happening in your life in general, especially in the financial sphere. When I work with people on this problem, I very often pester them with my questions, forcing people to explain, first of all, to themselves, and then to me, every action and every decision. Well, for example, a person buys himself, say, a new cell phone, or a housewife buys herself a new vacuum cleaner, or, say, a person decides to take out a loan to buy a car, having already a good car at his disposal. I ask these people, why did you do it? No, I understand that you want it, I understand that this new thing is better than the old, I understand that in order to spend money, we earn it, and I understand a lot more from what these people can answer me. But friends, let me stop you a little and focus your attention on the tip of my finger and tell you that yes, you deserve a lot in this life, your little joys are sacred, but damn it, if you want to solve your money problems, stop spending it on all sorts of crap. You need a result. You are not reading this article for fun, are you? Let's move on and see what else has a negative impact on our financial situation. And debts have an extremely negative impact on our financial situation. You just can't imagine, friends, how contagious it is to borrow money. And so when someone asks me why there is always not enough money, I ask this person a counter question: do you have debts? You see, it's not that debts must be repaid, and when talking about a loan, we also talk about interest on it. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing is the habit of living beyond your means. So you've earned money, no matter how much, a little or a lot, but you've earned it, and you have it, and this is the resource that you currently have, that is available to you. You must manage this resource, this money, in such a way as not only to satisfy your vital needs, but also to remain with money after your expenses, that is, to save some of it. These are friends, self-control, self-discipline. This is a person managing himself, his animal instincts. This, of course, is not easy. It is not easy to control yourself, just as it is not easy not to smoke, not to drink, not to allow yourself other weaknesses. But this must be done if you want to be a person, and not a dumb piece of meat, from which all the juices are first squeezed out, and then sent to mince. Being a person has always been difficult, and being a pig is easy. Although, as it was said in the film Leon, pigs are better than people. Therefore, when we behave inhumanly, when we allow our instincts to control us, we probably really do behave worse than pigs. When I was taught to control myself, although for the most part one learned it myself, I then had a strong withdrawal, because constantly controlling your primitive body and brainless head is like trying to saddle a wild horse. And I partly managed to do it, after which my life changed a lot. Hard work on yourself, the right work, always gives results. You just have to survive the first period of withdrawal, when you want to do what you want, but you don't have to. But when this difficult stage of working on yourself is over, you will feel like a completely different person, a real person, capable of making the right, thoughtful decisions, and not being a primitive beast, capable only of eating, shitting, copulating. So, friends, let's sum up the interim results. Thoughtless spending of money, unconscious spending of money, and absolutely unnecessary debts, which teach you to live beyond your means, become the reason why people constantly lack money. Exactly, constantly, not periodically, but constantly. I think it is important for every person to fully understand their own role in their life. Did you come into this world to submit to advertising, to be manipulated by some marketers for their own pleasure, to have some salesperson in a store pull your leg, selling you unnecessary crap? Or maybe you think that everyone in this world cares about you, that doctors only think about your health, and bankers are concerned about your financial situation, and your beloved government wants to make you happy? They don't give a damn about you, and therefore everything that someone else offers you, supposedly with good intentions, you should check 1,000 times before agreeing with something or making a decision that someone is pushing you to. When you get into debt, without any particular need, you most likely become a victim of someone else's influence on you, because of which you commit actions that are disadvantageous to you. How can you have enough money if, say, you can't put money aside for a couple of months to save up for a new washing machine, or a new TV, or some other not very expensive thing? Why the hell do you need to take out a loan for little things? Why the hell do you need to learn to live beyond your means if you are a mere mortal and no one will allow you to parasitize on society, like, for example, those same big businessmen do, whose debts we, ordinary people, will still pay? You must understand that no one will offer anything good to an ordinary person, a bast shoe wearer. You are just meat for the wolf, which itself climbs into his mouth when he gets into debt. It's probably not very smart to harm your own financial situation, in my opinion. This damn system, for all its merits, is already unkind to most of us. It extracts money from people like lard from pigs. Why should we do it a disservice by putting on the slave chains of thoughtless debt? Okay, when there are no serious problems with money, then you can afford to be weak and irresponsible, if that's what you want. But when these problems exist and they have an extremely negative impact on your life, then you must be a more sober and more responsible person, and not do things that create problems for you, including problems with money. And debt, my friends, definitely creates problems with money for you, unless of course you really find yourself in a very difficult situation for yourself, when you absolutely cannot do without borrowed funds. But if you look at our life today, you will see that in most cases people get into debt without any need. They have simply been taught to solve their money problems in this way. They have been taught to realize their small desires through borrowed funds. If someone lends us money, then why not take this money? But, mind you, most often it is impossible not to repay this debt, which means that you will have to repay it, and most often with interest, if it is a loan, so you need to find money for this. So a person has financial problems that cannot be solved with any amount of money. You see, everything happens bypassing a person's consciousness, all these intentions to take out a loan, borrow, buy something right now, and pay for it later. It's cool, yes, you can live like this, but you should not get carried away with such, so-called freebies, because when, damn, people's monthly loan payments exceed the total income of the entire family, this is clearly too much. And modern culture, modern lifestyle, all this propaganda and so-called fashion, all of them only indulge such a careless attitude of people to their finances, which is not surprising, because a person in this system is a resource, the most ordinary resource that must be exploited. And you and I are exploited today through money, so we need to keep an eye on it. Or rather, as we have found out, we need to monitor ourselves and our behavior and not allow ourselves to spend money thoughtlessly and get into debt no less thoughtlessly. As I have already said, all expenses only through paper. If you cannot figure out your head, all your purchases, all expenses, absolutely all expenses should be recorded on paper, so you will at least know where they go, your money. Shopping addiction, dependence on loans, debts, dependence on the opinion of sellers and the opinion of TV, which constantly foists something on you. This addiction sucks your money out of you, for which, I am sure, you toil in the sweat of your brow. Well, think about it, before you even decide to sort out all your expenses, which you may not be ready to give up yet. Think and decide, are all these things that you buy, all these little joys, and your little weaknesses worth your sweat and blood? Is it worth it for you to bend your back for a moment of joy that you experience when you spend your money? Maybe you should become more economical and at least partly prudent? Oh, by the way, don't look for excuses for yourself and say that you need to not spend less, but earn more, that the whole problem is only in income and not in expenses. This is a big misconception, and any person who understands financial planning at all will tell you that you need to be able to spend what you have already earned, and not what you can earn, what you need to earn. Maybe you need to earn more, you can't really argue with that, but not everyone can do it, so you shouldn't divide the skin of an unkilled bear. It's better to divide wisely, the piece of wool that is currently in your hands. Otherwise, you inadvertently drive yourself completely crazy at some job, wanting to earn more, and then you will be surprised by the problems that have appeared with your health, with your psyche, with your relatives, who will not see you for days. You don't need to follow other people's opinions and all sorts of dogmas, which in some cases turn out to be absolutely inappropriate. Think better about what is beneficial for you to do and justify your conclusions for yourself. Ideally, you should earn more and spend the money you earn wisely. Can you stick to this ideal? You know how I fight this, my weaknesses that try to motivate me to spend my money on some nonsense? I just imagine some arrogant, selfish, arrogant goat on a yacht, having fun with girls and sipping tequila at my expense and not giving a damn about me, And it starts to drive me crazy. It drives me crazy that some stinking monkey, molded from the same stuff as me, will have everything, while I have much, much less. He lives, and I exist, he enjoys life, and I have to fight for survival. Maybe that's too much of a stretch, of course, I don't fight for survival, and my life is not that bad, but still, I have to work hard and well for my money, so such thoughts sober me up very well. For me, this is enough to make me open a text editor, or take a pen and a notebook and start counting my money and looking for ways to minimize my spending on all sorts of nonsense. I emphasize, friends, that you don't need to spend money on nonsense, you understand, on all these cheap show-offs, on expensive things that are worthless. You don't need to spend money on them, and not just deny yourself something. Although sometimes, what can I say, you have to deny yourself something, especially during a crisis, when life really gets worse, at least for most people. Well, that's the thing, in good times you can treat yourself to anything, but when you have money problems, you should still give up something, not for someone else, but for yourself. You know, psychologists believe, and I completely agree with them, that people often spend money on all sorts of nonsense because they lack love. They kind of compensate for the lack of attention to themselves, the lack of affection, respect, love, by spending money on all sorts of things. When a person spends money, he feels his importance, he feels his power, he likes to see how his money makes other people pay attention to him. And he especially likes it when someone envies him, when someone admires him. So if you tend to spend money, think about what you really lack, what you really need. Maybe you should just find yourself a normal boyfriend? Sometimes, you know, you want to get something good, something pleasant, you want to experience some kind of joy, but there is no understanding of what you really need. And you think, because TV, newspapers, the internet, tell you this, that you need to buy something, something that will bring you joy. And the joy of buying really does exist, but it ends very quickly, just as quickly as your money. Money in our world is power, because people sell themselves for it. Most people are ready to do anything, absolutely anything, for money. And understanding this, you also understand something else, that it is better, more profitable, more correct to deny yourself something, some senseless and cheap show-offs, than to lose this power, than to lose money as a source of power over people. Therefore, I suggest you ask yourself the question a little differently, and ask yourself not where your money goes, but where does your power go? And most importantly, why do you allow it to go somewhere where it will never return to you in any form? Joy is joy, but when money is thrown to the wind, then you are no longer anyone, and you need to go earn this money again, you need to work for someone again. If you squander your money, if you don't want to write down all your expenses on paper and thus take control of them, deciding what you should and shouldn't spend your money on, if you refuse to deny yourself something and don't want to live within your means, well then just think about what price you will have to pay for it. Think about whether your job is worth it for you to die on it for the sake of another piece of junk, for which you do not spare money. Is your life worth spending it on small joys? Or maybe it is better to think about getting one big joy, in the form of a successful life? Do not think too lowly of yourself, do not think that only money can make you a person, because there are many things in life in which you can realize yourself without any money and feel like a person, an individual. We pay too much attention to money and too little to ourselves. Go to the heart of the problem we are considering. To the heart of what I call the psychological problem. Does it not point to our too serious attitude to money? Many people have narrowed their thoughts, and with them their lives, to everything connected with money and only with it. Their attention is concentrated exclusively on money. They are ready to work only for money, ready to think only about money. They like to spend money and do not like anything else. They do not get pleasure from anything else. Basically only money is the center of their life. Isn't this a problem? Does it not lead to the fact that it is with money that a person has problems in the first place? Well, just think about it, strain your brain, forget about all this fuss, calm your mind. Spontaneous thinking has never contributed to the solution of any problems, it only generated them or aggravated them. You need peace to understand that there are no problems with money, there is a problem with the structure of our life, in which each of us lives according to a scenario in which many problems are inevitable. If you think only about money and live only by money, then most of all the problems that a person thinking about money faces will be connected with them. Learn to live in a new way if money problems have gotten to you. Well, is it only from going to an expensive restaurant or from going to a trendy club that you can enjoy? What about books? What about nature? What about your loved ones next to you? What about dreams that develop your imagination? What about beautiful classical music that can take you to another reality? What about art, for the enjoyment of which you don't need a lot of money at all? Friends, pay attention to the world around you. There is so much beauty in it, so much wonder, so much joy that doesn't require money from you. Why are you all going to these stores? You need to buy this, you need to buy that, and still, it's not enough for you, it's still not enough. You lead a lifestyle where everything revolves around money, and you spend it all the time, and then you don't have enough, and no salary can satisfy your growing appetites, without satisfying which you feel unhappy. What kind of life is this? Think about it, you're spinning like a squirrel in a wheel. And for what? Well, let's say you're not a spendthrift and you try to spend your money wisely, without succumbing to the influence of emotions, and without falling for all these advertising tricks, and yet you have problems with money, you don't have enough, and constantly. This is possible, especially since the standard of living in Mother Russia is not the highest, especially during a crisis, when even the most necessary things for life become wildly expensive. In such a situation, you can't really live in luxury, and you have to find money for the most necessary things. And a person's salary, without any whims, may really not be enough, not to mention the fact that he can be laid off. What to do in such a case? Work, friends, work. And what else can you and I do? Think for yourselves. We don't know how to kill and rob and don't want to, but we can, of course, parasitize on society if we want. It is not prohibited by law, but it is not so easy to do, because the really lucrative places have long been controlled by those who are already parasitizing on us. And sometimes there are not enough suckers for everyone, despite the fact that there are a lot of them. As a rule, there are already people to suck them. And so just like that, to launch some kind of pyramid and grab a lot of money, it is difficult, it is possible, but difficult. And the work, it just has to be right, that is, such that we get a normal result from our efforts, in the form of wages and in the form of pleasure. In this case, should I tell you that you should work with your head, not necessarily only with your head, like, doing intellectual work, but with your head? You can work with your hands, there is nothing wrong with that. And if your current job is not able to provide you with money, you need to change it, you definitely need to. Do not be afraid of the new, do not cling to your place at work as the only way to earn money, study new methods, become more flexible, do not let anyone chain you tightly to your workplace. Otherwise, this will make you weak and dependent people, afraid of any rustle. Thus, if you constantly lack money, then it is quite possible that your job simply cannot provide you with it. I also discuss this possibility with my clients when I help them understand the reasons for their problems with money. Someone, yes, spends their money thoughtlessly and therefore does not have enough. Everything is clear here. A person needs, as I said above, to take control of himself and start spending his money wisely. But when your income is very small, when you do not have enough, no matter how you twist it, no matter how you optimize your expenses, but there is still little money and there is practically nothing to live on, then you urgently need to look for new sources of income. How to find them? Friends, you need to learn something new, something that is in demand by society, something for which you will be paid good money, which will be enough for you. If you do not know how to do business, cannot get to the state trough, do not want to engage in banditry, then you will have to work. And you will have to, friends, work honestly, more or less honestly. You will have to learn to benefit people and get paid for it, normal money, so that you have enough for everything. This could be a new job, or it could be a new job, fundamentally new for you. That is, friends, it is quite possible that in order to earn normal money, you will have to master some new type of activity for you, with which you were not previously familiar and for which you will have to learn or study. Is this approach to solving problems with money a problem for you? Are you afraid to learn something new? If you have problems with this, if you are afraid of something and or doubt your abilities, then seek help from those who can prepare you for a new type of activity for you. For example, you can contact me for consultations, ideal, as you already understood, with such issues. In general, today you can and should seek help from specialists. It is better than living with serious problems for you that poison your life. Especially since today you can get help remotely, via the internet. It is convenient and, in principle, not expensive, and sometimes even free. Although, what normal help can be free, if you think about it? Do not spare money on what you can solve your money problems, pay them to those whose work will make your life better. Otherwise, you will not sort out the problem of money in any way, friends, and you need to sort it out. You see for yourself how we treat people today, what kind of life we have created for them. Well, if they do not pay normal money, say, to the same teachers in our country, well, what can you do? You can't go to rallies, you can't grab pitchforks. This is somehow too primitive, too unmodern. It is better to solve such problems through market relations. The state does not need a teacher, do not be a teacher. Don't be those the system doesn't need, don't learn from those it's not profitable to learn from. Of course, you can improve your qualifications to such an extent that you are needed more than other people in your profession, so to speak, to be competitive. But you know what, when neurosurgeons are laid off, excellent specialists who need to be trained for at least 12 years before being allowed to perform operations, then you don't know who you need to be in life to be needed and to be paid well. You need to be plasticine in it, that's who, so that at any moment you can become who it is profitable to become. It is clear that it is somehow unrealistic for a doctor to retrain, say, as a programmer or an economist, a manager. It will take too much time. But for a simpler job, a person can be trained in a short period of time. After all, once upon a time in our country it was very profitable to sell junk on the market, for which neither intelligence nor imagination was required. Well, why not engage in more profitable activities if life forces you to do it? What else can you do? Not mope around on jelly. In the modern world, many people and many professions are becoming unprofitable. In the future, many of us will be replaced by machines. I am absolutely sure of this, and we must be morally prepared for this. Well, and finally, let me philosophize a little. Perhaps my thoughts, if they do not add money to you, then at least calm you down a little and tune your mind to a positive and promising wave. Money, friends, is always in short supply, always, and for everyone, regardless of a person's income. This is not a problem of money, it is a problem, or even not so much a problem, as a feature of our psyche. We perceive life mostly through passion, through instincts. We want something all the time, we are never enough, we constantly strive for more. Such a concept as stability contradicts our nature. We are not such creatures to stay in any one state for a very long time, although we want it. We tell ourselves stability, constancy, certainty, the new is the enemy of the old and good, and so on, that this is good, we need this, and we do not even notice how we ourselves want change, how sometimes we become impudent and do not appreciate what we have. Just yesterday we were happy with our job and our salary, and today we want more, we need more money, we want to work less, we need career growth and all that. And that is why, to some extent, we ourselves are drawn to problems, we create them for ourselves. And problems with money, they also become a consequence of our lifestyle, which I already talked about above. The way we live affects our financial situation. Whether you like your life or not, you know this better than me, but if you are constantly short of money, then it is absolutely obvious that something in your life is going wrong. You are either working at the wrong job, where they pay little money, or you are managing this money unwisely. And if you do not change your life comprehensively, but only make minor cosmetic changes, then you will not achieve significant results, and by plugging one hole in you,